What's up, guys? Kellen from Action Backers here. Monday, November 11th. Just want to make a quick video to discuss a few things that I've been working on over the weekend. So, make no bones about it. It's been a rough November for our NHL picks. No question there. We got off to an incredibly hot start the first month of the season. On October 31st, we finished at plus 25 and change betting units. And at the time of recording now, November 11th, we're at like plus 15. So we've lost, in the last 11 days, we've lost 10 units. I'm not happy about it. I am happy that we're still in the profit, obviously, so that's good. But I just want to discuss sort of like what I'm working on to try and figure it out. It's like baseball, obviously. Like, if you know you have a good approach at the plate, then you keep swinging and you're gonna make contact. So I'm not like scrapping anything, or the sky isn't falling. This is like perfect normal side of variance. It just sucks. We had a couple days in October where we went like 10-0, and then the first couple days in November we went like 12-2. So it evens out. It just looks bad and it sucks, especially for you new members who have just signed up. This is not fun for me, and I'm sure it's not fun for you. So I just want to make this quick video to discuss sort of what I've been working on. So I'm gonna get rid of my face so you guys can see. So I've spent the majority of the weekend working on this, and essentially what this is just sort of like a grid so we can see where we're actually profitable and where we're not. So I've sent a few emails to members, but for you guys just watching on YouTube wanting to follow along, essentially I work off of two models. So I have my A model, my B model, so we'll call it the old and the new. And then I compare and find value and take picks with both. But I suspected for a while now that something isn't right. There's some conflicts happening. So I dug in and I've found some interesting things, and I just want to talk about what we're going to do going forward. So if you can see here, if I go to sheet 2, I've populated every game for the season so far. So we're at 260 odd games now. And then I've run some calculations to see, essentially based on what the odds were, if I had bet on every game, depending on my perceived percentage edge threshold, what the outcome would be. So what I mean is, we haven't bet on every game, obviously, but if we had bet on every single game available to us, based on the odds, what would our profit look like? And so and obviously we want to use our edge. So that's how we find value, right? And I've talked about this ad nauseum. I have 5 videos alone on this. But let's say, for instance, so today Arizona's playing. So the odds that I'm looking at, let's say they were plus 163. That gives an implied probability of 38%. And then running our models, and again, so running through the stats, and doing like the 10,000 simulations or whatever. And I know this is the Ottawa Carolina game, but you get the idea. So running through this would give us our predicted win. And so for Arizona today, our predicted probability was 43.5%. So we look at that compared to the implied probability that the odds of 163 are giving us of 38%. And that's a difference of 5.5%. So that's our edge is 5.5%. So when I'm saying threshold percentage, I just mean any edge we have. So if we bet every game with a threshold of 1% edge, so between 1 and 100% edge, our outcome on the season, and the calculations take a bit when I'm recording the videos as well. Usually this is quicker, but the outcome on the season, and this is just based on $100 wager. We can change this to 50, whatever you want it to be. It doesn't really matter. It's all relative, but the outcome we would be up $1,517. So that's really close to actually what we're at right now. We're just a bit above that. But that's sort of, that doesn't really mean anything, right? So, but based off of this, we can start to find where we're profitable and where we're beating our break even, and almost more importantly where we're not. So if you look, this is between three models, right? Or two models. So it's between the old one, the new one, and then both. But just because our total profit is profitable, that doesn't mean that this is ideal necessarily. So you can see our expected profit, if we were to bet just a 1% edge, with our, that our old model was giving us, our expected profit is quite low, whereas with both, it's pretty high. So what this allows us to do is we can find where our edges are. So just looking quickly, anything, in this section here, of the three, anything that's green is higher than, it's a differential of higher than 3%. So basically it's just taking, what our current win percentage would be had we bet every single game, and then it's looking at, based on the odds, what the break even is, and then giving us a differential. Okay, I've chosen 3% because I think that's a pretty good noise floor. Obviously, it's close to 2.5% is probably fine. 1%, it's basically a coin flip. But obviously anytime you can break even or better is great, right? So like right here, if we look at our 3% threshold, or 3.5% threshold, sorry, on our old model, anytime we bet something at 3.5 and above, we're actually losing. We're below break even, so that's not good. So what this allows us to do, though, is we can just play around with these thresholds, and we can see. So maybe, so this is between 1 and 100. If we go, a 2% threshold, what does that look like? And again, these calculations are slow because of the video. And so you can see 2%, the threshold, it looks really good across the board. Our profit is, 2,800. We're profiting in all three if we bet the, based on the old, the new, and both. So that's good. So, for a baseline, you could start there. So anything with two and above percent edge, we bet that, and we would be profiting. You can see if we did that for every game over the course of the year so far, it would be 172, 171. We'd be 50.1% win, and our average odds would be 2.17 across the three. Obviously, it'd be higher in some and lower in others, but that's where we would get us. So that's pretty good, and that's a good starting point. And then obviously there are things to keep in mind, because sometimes we're going to have conflicting picks, right? And what I mean by that is the models are going to disagree. So if we hop back to our sheet, you can see here the first game of the year, our old model, it wanted us to take Ottawa. New model wanted us to take Toronto. So obviously there's a conflict there, and one's going to win, one's going to lose. So it's not perfect, because I'm doing this using decimal odds because it's just a lot easier. So it's always going to be, you're always going to lose, your 100 if you lose. But if you profit, if the odds are really low, you're only profiting on this Toronto bet. We only would have profited $30, where in reality, we would have profited 100 here, because we would have bet to win 100, likely. But then it goes the other way as well. For instance, yesterday Vancouver were a big favorite and they lost. So it sort of works out based on this. And sorry, there's a ton of games, but you can see Vancouver here. So we're actually, in this model, we're only losing the 100 rather than losing I think they were 165 or something. So rather than losing the 165, but if they would have won, we would have only profited $59. Okay, so that doesn't really matter for this. It's all relative, so it's fine. But what I want to, what I've done is I'm looking at, so obviously there are conflicts. So if we go back here, you can see I've worked that in. So based on any time there's a conflict, so when the edge is 2% or greater, so far there's been 37 picks where there are conflicts, and you can see that the edge goes to the new model. 62.2% of the time is the winning pick. So if we did come across a conflict, then we would likely want to go with the new model. And obviously this changes. So as you go up, if we go to like 8%, for instance, and I apologize for how slow this is. You can see here, so when we start our threshold at 8%, we've only had 3 picks total, but two of the three the new model has come through and won, so 67% of the time. So this is something that I'm starting to factor in as well, looking at these conflicts and what makes sense. This is, again, now that we have 250 games worth of data, this is based on the historical data. And where we've been profitable. So the nice thing is, because we're filling this out for every single game, this will get updated, and we'll start to see, this isn't static. So just because this is where we're profitable today doesn't mean tomorrow will be the exact same after we take into consideration the new games. So I like this going forward in conjunction with the models. But then I wanted to talk about, so again, just because we found 2% was a good threshold doesn't mean, and I'm not going to run this again because it's slow, but it doesn't mean that we have to stick with 2% across the board, right? So we have 3 models, and we have our expected profit per wager based on the 3. So what we can start doing, and I've already found what I believe to be optimal. And because we can also close our threshold as well. It doesn't have to be 100. So we could look just between bets between 3 and 4%, for instance, and see, like, are we profitable when those bets happen. So if we do that, you can see the number of bets and whether or not we're profitable across models. So you can see for the most part, we're exactly 50-50. So whenever a bet falls between 3% and 4% value, regardless of if it's on the old or the new, they're both hitting at exactly 50%. You're making a bit more profit if we look at the old model, better odds. And then our both here is hitting at 100%, but it's only over 2 bets. Okay, so this is something I can look at as well. So Arizona today, if they're 5.5, if we have a 5.5% edge, then we can, and this is on the new model. I can already tell you based on the new model that is probably going to be just okay. Not great, because if we look between 5 and 6, we're right around break even. So it's probably not something we're going to want to play on today necessarily. Similarly, Ottawa, we said we're at 3.4% or 3.6% on the old model. And you can see that falls right into this range. And so we're not going to want to play them either, because they are not profitable for us. Now, if either of these move out of range as the numbers keep changing through the days or throughout the day, then it might be profitable. So that's on me to discern whether or not that's going to move. If it already has moved, I can tell you the Arizona one already moved. I looked at it overnight. I was up till 3 or 4 in the morning working on this, and overnight it was right around 2.5, 3%. It was actually looking like a decent play, and then it jumped. So we're not going to touch that for now. But as I was saying, so the next important thing is you can start to pull between the different models and use different thresholds. So now I can see, you know, for our old model, our highest percentage of our highest potential of making profit is actually with a 6% threshold. So this is factoring in 6% and above, but because it also factors in number of bets. So, that's why we wouldn't want to start around a 10% threshold, even though our expected profit is higher. The number of bets has been a lot fewer. So our expected profit from a 6% threshold is $972. With the new model, if we start at 8.5%, our expected profit is $1126. And with the both, if we start it all the way down at 2%, so anytime there's picks that agree with each other with a 2% edge or more, that's where we're really profiting there. So you can see, compared to our original where we're just starting everything at 2%, which we deem to be fairly optimal. And just give it a sec to catch up here. So that's, we're profiting $2,800, but we're almost $1,000 higher if we use these. And these will obviously change, like I said. So this is what I'm working on, and starting to base more of the picks off of, rather than just running model A, running model B, comparing them and within given threshold, and guessing. I'm really trying to come up with exactly where we're profiting and how to maximize that profit for us. So bear with me. I know this video is kind of long. If you have any questions, send me an email. If you have my email, if you're a member, you have my email, or you can always hit me up on Twitter at actionbackers.com. I really appreciate the support, guys. Sorry this video is so long. I hope this makes sense. I know I was rambling in spots, just trying to make it as clear as mud, I guess. But if anyone has questions, just let me know, okay? Thanks. And the channel's really growing. I really appreciate the support. So if you like this, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.